Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. With the release of Khans of Tarkir, a new standard season begins. The first tournaments post-rotation took place this weekend, and do we have a standard deck tech for you today? The winning strategy out of the Star City Games Open in New Jersey was Jeskai Tempo. Not only that, but variations littered the top 32 with a ton of people excited about it. I must say, I'm one of those converted to the Jeskai way. Before we get into individual card choices, let me explain what this deck does. Ready? Everything. It does everything. Jeskai Tempo is a strategy that utilizes a burn package similar to that of Boros Burn before rotation. It uses a couple high-value creatures, some good Planeswalkers, and high-impact spells to be relevant throughout the game. Not only that, but I'll say this with absolute confidence. I've never seen a sideboard be more relevant to the overall success of a deck ever. We'll start with the components of the deck, then talk about sideboard and general strategy. Jeskai Tempo is crazy, just trust me, it's nuts. Let's rush through the mana base. The deck runs 24 lands. 4 Temple of Epiphany, 4 Temple of Triumph, 3 Battlefield Forge, and 3 Shivan Reef are the cornerstones of the mana fixing. Joining them are 2 Flooded Strand and 1 Mystic Monastery. After that, we just have 2 islands, 3 mountains, and 2 plains. Not that bad for a 3-color deck, honestly. As far as non-land permanents are concerned, we'll start with spells this time. There are 20 in the deck. 4 Stoke the Flames, 4 Lightning Strike, and 4 Magma Jet lead the burn party. Stoke and Lightning Strike are both fantastic at any stage of the game since you can use them to hit your opponent right in the face. The choice of Magma Jet over something like Magma Spray shows that this is truly a tempo strategy, leaning away from being super aggressive and more towards planning the perfect time to strike. 4 Jeskai Charm in one weekend have already become auto-includes in a lot of these decks. It can be Boros Charm when you want it to be, it can be Azorius Charm when you want it to be, but most important of all, it synergizes criminally well with one of the creatures in the strategy. We'll talk about that a bit later. Hint, goblins are tricksy. The point is that the charm is disturbingly versatile, and in a deck where you need to shift priorities depending on the matchup, versatility is valued highly. It's about being able to adapt to any situation. The charm does that arguably better than any other card here. Another example of this deck moving away from pure burn is the 2 Dig Through Time. Since you're going to be using burn spells throughout the entire game, being able to delve a couple away to tutor from your top 7 seems good to me. It was evident during testing and it was evident in the open. Dig Through Time is much easier to cast than you might think. Remember, this strategy is about finding the right spells to keep your opponent down and then win out of nowhere. Dig Through Time is just the best draw spell for this deck, hands down. Best part is, you don't have to reveal the cards. Even if you don't get what you want, you can mess with your opponent. Show a smirk or laugh like a James Bond villain. I don't know, maybe don't do that. Don't take all my advice. Only the stuff about magic. Yeah. The last spell in the deck is Banishing Light. 2 of them are there to deal with cards the rest of your deck can't. Pelucano, Siege, Rhino, there are giant threats out there that your burn spells can't deal with. For these cards, Banishing Light is a great answer. Not only does it help deal with huge creatures, but it can help with pretty much anything else, minus a couple annoying creatures. Again, in a strategy where you're changing positions game to game, this is a great versatile spell for all game ones. The deck runs 12 creatures, 4 Seeker of the Way, 4 Goblin Rabblemaster, and 4 Mantis Rider. The Seeker is a card most people underestimate. The prowess and lifelink combined make this thing a true menace. Being able to drop it on turn 2, use a burn spell on their creature turn 3, then swing with a 3/3 lifelinker is hard to beat. Unless you're against a purely aggressive strategy, this line of play happens pretty often. Don't be one of those people who underestimate this card. Know what happened to them? Yeah, struck by lightning. Goblin Rabblemaster and Jeskai Charm might as well get married, have kids, and create a new creature type called Goblin Monk. The charm's last ability on even just 2 goblins can change the course of a game. Being able to blanket your team with lifelink and a buff is the definition of tempo. You mess with everything. Even if you take away the charm's busted 3rd ability, you're still dealing with a creature that creates an additional threat every turn. Talk about keeping your opponent honest. Just goblin attack, goblin attack. It's a nightmare. The real strength in the Rabblemaster that not many people are talking about is the fact that removal's worse now. Doomblade and Ultimate Price are gone. Sure, there are removal spells that took their places, but not as good, not overall at least. Most are situational. It's just a fact that non-damage based removal is strictly worse than it was 2 weeks ago. Cards like Rabblemaster and Bramaz benefit from this greatly. Keep that in mind when deck building. I'm not saying that there aren't good spells, just that the overall quality is down. The last creature in the deck is arguably the best. 4 Mantis Rider destroyed this weekend. The card single-handedly won games. Dropping this on the play on turn 3 was almost impossible to fight unless they had an immediate answer. 3 mana for a 3/3 flyer with vigilance and haste. Gives immediate value, blocks all early game creatures effectively, and never has to choose whether to attack or block. In a deck filled with removal, Mantis Rider is the question they have to answer. Not Stoke the Flames, not Magma Jet, the monk riding the bug. The last 4 cards in the deck are Planeswalkers. 2 Chandra Pyromaster and 2 Sarkhan the Dragonspeaker. These inclusions are pretty easy to justify. Chandra is a complete boss in New Standard. Not only does she provide free card advantage to a deck that focuses on spellcasting, but she also +1s to neuter an opponent. Her damage ability alone can destroy entire aggro strategies. Bloodsoaked Champion, Gnarled Scarhide, Tormented Hero, even Elvish Mystic. All of them fall to Chandra for pure value. At the beginning of a format, there's nothing better than a walker that can counter 1 toughness creatures. There really isn't. Chandra is boss. Sarkhan is just as much a powerhouse as people thought he would be. Turning into an indestructible beater every turn just gives your opponent something else to worry about. Since most removal is destruction based, dealing with him is not easy for most strategies. Worst case scenario, he comes down, then immediately destroys a Courser or Crew Fix. Even after that, you have to kill him before he turns into a dragon again. I'd consider adding another to the main deck. Sarkhan is simply brutal. I don't know about you, but when I start a game of Magic, I like knowing I have a 4/4 indestructible dragon that can flame slash. It's just me though. Now that we're done with the main deck, why does the sideboard matter so much? Well, the shell of this deck is designed to be able to move around and deal with a lot of different types of threats. At its core, this deck wins by burning your opponent's face off. Whether it's an aggro deck or a control deck, your opponent has a life total and you deal damage. For the record, I'm not going to include an exact sideboard. The format just started and I refuse to push you in a direction. Plus, your local meta and my local meta are completely different, I assure you. With that said, welcome to the craziness that is the Jeskai Tempo sideboard. Let's say you're up against a purely aggressive strategy, mono black aggro, a token variant, something like that. You clearly can't work faster than them, but you're playing white, blue, and red. Those colors have everything you need to be a control deck. Take out your Rabblemaster, Seekers, and a couple Walkers. Put in some Elspeth, Karanos, Banishing Light, Anger of the Gods, even Narset and Light and Master. Any of those automatically turns you into a late game monster that they can't stop. Use your massive amount of burn spells to 1-for-1 them until they have nothing left. Then use your high value top decks to drop your Elspeth, Karanos, Narset, or whatever else you brought in that's too big for them to deal with. Do you see what I'm getting at here? All you have to do is remove a few aggressive cards like the Seeker and Rabblemaster, and boom, you now play a Jeskai control deck. Playing against a Monsters variant or other mid-range strategy, Disdainful Stroke and Banishing Light. Cut down on Dig Through Time and some Magma Jet. You're now a mid-range deck with more removal than they have. I get that a sideboard is meant to change your deck into something else, but this strategy does it like no other. You can change pieces of other decks, but when you switch the right cards in and out of Jeskai Tempo, you change the entire point of the strategy. This deck wasn't even supposed to exist for a few weeks because of how hard it is to build a balanced, stable Jeskai shell, but this deck works like a machine. All parts moving perfectly, doing what they're supposed to. It really is amazing. If you want to play a deck that has a ton of moving parts and requires you to do math a lot, then this is for you. Jeskai Tempo is for the player who wants to experience aggro matchups, mid-range matchups, control matchups, and everything in between. You adapt better than any other strategy in the format right now. Enjoy playing everything. What do you all think of Jeskai Tempo? This isn't just me exaggerating, I actually love this deck. I think it's genius, it has blue and white in it, it looks fun to play, it has blue and white in it, it's just so good. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any questions, ask away. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source, I'm Wedge, thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.